We've got a brand new trial for you in Georgia. Opening statements kicking off in the speeding trooper homicide trial. First up, the state. They carry the burden. They go first. Let's watch.
It's September 26th, 2015. Dylan, Ben, Kylie, Isabella, and Dylan's little brother Quentin are all on their way to their friend TJ's house. Now, TJ's grandparents have a nice little piece of property down Holly Springs Road off of Cape Jones. And we get there down 27th. And Ben is driving because Dylan's truck is broken down. And there's a workshop on the property. There's a lake on the property. There's a cabin there. And they're going to go do what teenagers do on the weekends. They're going to hang out. On the way, they're supposed to get food. They're supposed to go to McDonald's. But Ben gets in the wrong lane, and Dylan says, let's just go on to TJ's. So that's what they do. And the guys are ripping beats, and the girls are listening to music. And again, they're just there to hang out. Maybe they'll have a bonfire. But the girls are like, hey, we're still hungry. And they want the boys to take them to get them. They climb back in the car. They minus Quentin. Because it's a smaller car. And Quentin got stuck in the back in the middle. So he stays with TJ. And the four kids leave to go get some tea. Now, while all this is happening, the defendant, who is a state patrol officer, is sitting under the I-20 bridge, just a little north of Holly Springs Road, R27. And he's sitting there with some officers from Raymond PD. And his battery in his radio is low. So he gives it to one of them so that they can charge it. And a call comes in. There might be a chase in another county. State patrol officers are involved. So he leaves. Maybe he can join the chase. Ultimately, it doesn't pan out. So on his way back, he stops somebody for speeding. And then he heads north. Now, mind you, he does have another radio. He is not without communication. So this is not some kind of emergency. And in fact, he's not going to a call. He's not running lights and sirens. But he is driving 90 miles an hour in a 55 mile per hour. 90 in a 55. And as he approaches Holly Springs Road, the kids are heading back to TJ's. And Dylan approaches the turn. It's a divided highway, right? There's a median in the middle. And he's looking ahead of him. And the roadway is dark. Now, mind you, this is nighttime. It's about 11:30-ish. And as he goes to turn, he looks ahead. The roadway is dark. There's nothing to see. And as he begins to make his turn, the defendant flies over the hill at about 83 miles an hour. It's dark, the road is wet, there's obviously limited visibility. I apologize. And as he drives up that hill, he passes two caution signs, one on each side of the road. Those yellow signs that you see that say, hey, there's an intersection coming up. And you should actually go 45 miles an hour. But he disregards those. And as the kids come into view, he turns to the right, the direction they're headed. And he realizes his mistake. And he starts to turn back to the left. And only then puts on his brakes. But at that point, it was way too late, and he hits them with devastating force. And as their vehicle begins to spin, Kylie is ejected onto Holly Springs Road. She suffers a lacerated liver and what they call soft tissue damage.
Okay, we're going to hit the pause button right here on the state's opening statement. And the audio is going to get a little better. When we come back in our next hour, she's going to get closer to the podium and to that microphone, so we're going to hear her a little better. And then, of course, we've got the defense opening statement. This is Court TV Live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Court TV Live. We've got a brand new trial for you this Wednesday morning. I'm Julie Grant, and we're so grateful for your company. This one's happening in the state of Georgia. We're calling it the speeding trooper homicide trial for defendant A.J. Scott. So this guy's a mayor now. He used to be a state trooper, and the incident in question happened back in 2015. Prosecutors say he was speeding while driving his patrol car and slammed into another car carrying 4 people. The deceased victims are Isabella Chinchilla and Kylie Lindsay. Both of these young women were killed. 2 other male passengers survived. Now, this is the second time this defendant has gone on trial. His first trial ended in a mistrial after prosecutors failed to disclose evidence about an alternate theory of how the crash may have happened. So we're going to go back in for the state's opening statement. It was very hard to hear the attorney, and we're acknowledging that because she wasn't in front of the microphone. Now you're going to see she wraps up pretty quickly here, but essentially she's saying, had this trooper been going the speed limit at the time, this crash wouldn't have happened. And that is the basis for the charging. The violation of the traffic law serves as the basis for this homicide charge that they've brought against him for these 2 victims. Let's go back in.
That he was almost the length of a football field away from Dylan when Dylan began to make that turn. And that he's traveling approximately 83 miles per hour, which is approximately 121 feet per second. Dylan had no way to do that. Had no way to expect that. But at the end of the day, it's the defendant's choices that lead us here, that resulted in the death of 2 young women and a serious injury to 2 young men. He was speeding, he was reckless, and he was responsible.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you, first of all, for being here. I may have said to you what I did, and I mean it. We could not have jury trial without yours. And the trial by jury is, we kind of take it for granted now in this country. But in the 1700s, the idea that we could bring people in from their everyday lives and have them sit in court and decide what the law is and how to prosecute it, that's a fact. It was remarkable. It was something revolutionary in the Revolutionary War. It just come out of it, because that's not the way it was done in other parts of the world beforehand. And while our system is not perfect, it is the best one going today. It's the best one conceived by man, Lord Thomas Jefferson, and to hold the government to the principles of the Constitution. And I'm shorthanding that, paraphrasing, but I believe that. And I believe that juries get it right much all the time. And that's the reason why we're here today. It's for you as a jury, collectively and individually, to do what is called the Latin version of it. It's veredictum, which is what we use for verdict, which essentially means veredictum, verity, the truth. Dictum means to speak, is to speak the truth, to say the truth. And that's the whole truth. That's not a part of it, that's not a slant, it's not a side, it's the whole truth. And today I just want to let you know that A.J. Scott is my client. He's here. Members of my office, Justice Led, everybody's Lori Manley and Taylor Fields are here helping me this week, and you'll see them coming and going throughout the week. I just want to let you know who they were. Some of you I mentioned during voir dire, or you mentioned leaving, where you could serve on juries, others of you have not. And oftentimes it is asked, what is a jury's role? What do they do? And everybody, I think, for the most part, has either read or watched on television verdict. Everybody knows the verdict, right? And that's ultimately the byproduct, is the end result of what you do. But it's not what a jury does. And as I was preparing for this case, some things struck me. And you might wonder why I have a loaf of bread on my table. And I have always been a visual learner. From when I was a young child to this day, visual learner. And you might wonder, what does loaf of bread have to do with a case? And it made me think, about 30 years ago, 28 years ago or so, I had a job for a time at a flour factory in Duluth. It's located on Industrial Boulevard between Highway 101 and 78. If you've driven by there, it probably smells. It smells really good unless you work there, not so much. But I remember I had a job, and my job was I ran a bagger. And the bagging machine was kind of towards the end of the production where I had to control the nozzles and the air coming out, and had to make sure the bread didn't get backed up. The scoop had a sensor, and scoop out, the bread fall up with the bag. And there was a tying machine, and it went from me to the shipping people, right? They put it on trays on rolling carts into the truck, and trucks to the stores. Well, I remember the first day I was there, I had very little training, but I did have a couple of days. It was kind of on the job training. There was a gentleman named Bill who I think still works there, actually. And I still see him from time to time around town. And Bill was there, and he was showing me how to run the machine, and what to look for, and troubleshoot if something happens. And as you're sitting there the first day, and then the second day, there was a guy. Didn't know who he was, he never introduced himself. He was a man, maybe one on the chef, was a man on my chef. He would come and literally just take a loaf of bread. Sometimes he'd take a loaf of bread before it went through the slicer, sometimes after, and he had like a tray, right? Like similar to what you see with a waiter, right? And he'd just walk away with it. And I was curious as to who this guy was. Well, then I also found out that the particular job that I had, you were paid hourly, but you're also paid production. So the more bread I got in bags, the more ties I got on, the more I got out, the more I got paid. Every 2 weeks you got a little bonus, right? If you met certain criteria, you went up. So I started wondering, who is this guy? Why is he taking bread off the line that I could get in the bag and pay? So I asked Bill, and I said, that's cute. So I literally thought the man's name was Quillian or Q or something. I had no idea. But come to find out, it was actually quality control. And also, as I worked there a little bit longer that year, I figured out there was a small office in the back, probably a third the size and a quarter the size of this office. They had a laboratory. And this man would come and take the bread, and he'd weigh it. He would taste it. He would break it down chemically to see what was in it. If in fact what they put on the label was what was in it, how much salt, how much sugar. He would actually measure the slices. They had a little penny measure. He would put it on a digital scale. And the part I made about that is there were a lot of things that went into this. It is trouble. And you're going to hear about a lot of them. And there's a lot that goes into making a loaf of bread. It starts with the guys that unload the trucks, the people that put it in stores, people that measure the ingredients, people that mix the ingredients, that put it together. Some of them are hand twisted still to this day. And then it goes to the oven, it goes to the containers, it goes to the oven, and people control ovens and how hot they are and how long they're in there. And then there's cooling, and then there's a slicing machine, people control that. There are a lot of parts that get before it gets in the bag, right? And there's a lot of parts in this case. So what I consider you as a jury is you're the quality control officer, person of the criminal justice system. What you're supposed to do as a jury is to check the quality of what's been given to you, and is it justice? And I use that analogy simply because it helps me explain to the jury kind of what you're expecting. And so if you think about it, your job is to check the state's work, to check the people that were mixing it, the people that were baking it, the people that put it in the form. Did they actually give you what they said they give you? What's required by law
Does it match the ingredient? Does it match the specifications of this jury? They have to give you that.
So if you look at the evidence going forward in that way, I think it may help you. Now, you hear us discuss throughout this trial, or I would say, and myself, the idea of reasonable doubt. And that is something that we use in this forum. I understand most other people don't use it. Most like you don't hear things about torque and I certainly can't, right? That's not something you hear. It is sort of a byproduct of our profession. But what reasonable doubt is pretty simple. Reasonable doubt is a fair-minded, open, juror speaking the truth. And it is a doubt for which you can give a reason that is reasonable doubt. Now, we're telling you, throughout this entire trial, there will be reasonable doubt from the beginning to the end. Now, there's some things that we agree on. And some.
Let's pause it right here. I want to know what you think about that loaf of bread sitting there by the jury box. We're wondering, is anybody eating it right now? Very creative on the part of this defense counsel. Let me bring in our law enforcement analyst guest this hour. He formerly was a special agent and supervisor with the Department of Homeland Security, also served in our military. He's got his PhD as well, and he's a firearms expert too. Jason Piccolo on the show with us. Good morning, Jason. What'd you think about the loaf of bread? I've never seen that before in a trial. How about you?
You know, props always help, doesn't it? It seems like props always help. So the loaf of bread's going to be interesting. I wonder what else we're going to pull out as this trial goes on.
I know. I was thinking maybe should he have brought a box of donuts to bribe the jury a little bit? No, I'm kidding. Can't do that. And, in some courts, can be restrictive with outside things like that. I was kind of listening to see if there would be an objection. If I was on the other side, I would let it go. It's, whatever. It's fine. In here, there was no objection. But technically, there could have been one. Dr. Jason, let's talk about these facts. So this trooper on duty in the patrol car, not responding to a call, though. Speeding, clearly speeding, according to the state, 90 miles an hour in a 45. The state's contention is this never would have happened had he been just going the speed limit. No lights on, no siren going, nothing to warn anybody. The defense contention, we're not really sure yet what that's going to be because we paused it. We just know it seems that this attorney is trying to get them to focus on the process. I think that's what he means by the quality control, making sure everything has been done according to the laws, the rules of evidence, and the rules of criminal procedure. How do you envision this trial playing out?
I envision they're going to agree to the facts that yes, he was speeding, and we're looking at it from the defense side. The other aspect I can see the defense doing is pulling out his training records. Now, law enforcement typically, and especially troopers, will have some sort of instruction, or especially troopers instruction in high-speed driving and stopping short and emergency vehicle operations. So I can see them pulling that out and saying, hey, even though he was speeding, he did have training in high-speed pursuits and high-speed driving. So I can see them pulling out the training records eventually.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dr. Jason. This guy also, it's interesting to me. So his career with the state police ended. We know that ended. He no longer served in that role, but went on to become a mayor of a small town in Georgia. So, when you think about kind of bouncing back from a really bad, horrific event, it seems like life has kind of been okay for him. Do you think that may be helpful for this jury in the way that they perceive him?
They're going to look at everything with him and determine if he did get post-traumatic stress from the incident and exactly how it affected his life. So they're going to take a look at everything, and especially him, really becoming more than what he was before. A trooper to a mayor is a solid upgrade to some people.
Yeah, it really is, Jason. I'm curious if he's going to take the stand. I'm already thinking about that because if he is a politician, politicians like to talk. They're usually very good at talking and don't shy away from those opportunities. So I'm kind of wondering if he's had a lot of time to think about what to say. I mean, my gosh, 2015. So we're going back a decade from when this incident occurred. I'm so glad you're here. Jason Piccolo, stand by, please. We're going to find out what's going on with that piece of bread, or loaf of bread, I'm sorry, if anybody's eating a piece of it right now. That's really something unusual. You never know what you're going to see here on Court TV Live. Stay tuned. The speeding trooper homicide trial rolls on after the break.
Are you not entertained?
Friday nights, the WNBA is on Ion. The Lynx battle the Fever.
Thrills it.
Then, the Valkyries take on the Mercury. Coverage begins Friday night at 7. Find Ion wherever you watch. Ion, it's on.
Brian Walsh, accused of murdering his wife, Anna.
She wrote a children's book about her husband's death. Now she's accused of killing him.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Hey.
We are so grateful for your company this Wednesday morning. I'm Julie Grant, and this is Court TV Live. Let's give you a look at our trial tracker at this hour. In Utah, we've got defendant Kevin Ellis back in court for a motions hearing. He and his mom are charged with the murder of his sister Catherine's estranged husband, Matthew Restelli. This is the case that some are calling the Utah Adelsons, very similar to the Adelson case in Florida, which we'll touch on in a moment. In Tennessee, we've got the Young Dolph murder trial continuing. Defendant Hernandez Govan is accused of orchestrating the killing of rapper Young Dolph, and we're live streaming this trial for you on our YouTube channel, so head there if you like to check it all out. In Florida, we've got day 2 of the jury selection in the Adelson case. The most recent trial is for the family matriarch, Mama Donna. We're in day 2 of the picking. We'll be going in and out and updating you on the progress of the jury selection this morning. And in Georgia, we've got the opening statements underway in the speeding trooper homicide trial for defendant A.J. Scott. This guy's a mayor now, but back when he was a state trooper, he's accused of causing an accident that resulted in the deaths of 2 teenage girls. Let's go back to that courtroom now. We're hearing the opening statement from his defense attorney.
And some of the descriptions and events, we're going to agree on. We're not going to disagree on everything. But what I think the evidence is going to show you is around 11:30 or so on a Saturday night, almost 10 years ago, September 26th, Dylan Wall was operating a Nissan Sentra, a 1.8-liter 2005 Nissan Sentra. And in that car, he had 3 other teenagers. I think it's going to be clear, and I think the state has already advised you, and I would agree with them, they had a party, whatever you want to call it, a gathering, a group of young people. And TJ Sylvie was one of them saying they're at his house, and his family owns quite a bit of property in that area. And she's right. You're going to hear a 911 call from an independent person who knew nothing about what was going on. You'll hear it, and you'll get to listen to it. And it'll talk about the direction that vehicle was traveling and the direction how it was traveling. I'm putting pretty close attention to that. And they had left the party, and then they had come back to the park, or they were coming back to the party. And what I think the evidence is going to show you is that Dylan Wall made a left-hand turn without yielding. If you're going to watch videos, and you're going to hear testimony, you're going to see that there is absolutely no yielding, that there was no turn signal whatsoever. You're going to see, and you're going to get a chance to evaluate that. You're also going to hear about the weather that night. It was wet. It was raining. It was so rainy that you're going to have testimony the airlift ambulance helicopter couldn't be brought in because of the weather. It just wasn't conducive for them to fly or land. So you're going to hear those things. You're going to hear that Dylan Wall's vehicle was traveling somewhere between 22 and 23 miles an hour as he made a left-hand turn without yielding. You will hear that, and that will come up to you. There was, in fact, alcohol present, both in the car, in the road, and throughout the crash scene. And there's 2 different types of alcohol that are present. We do not dispute that Mr. Wall and Mr. Finken were taken by ambulance to the hospital. We don't dispute that. I will let you notice, and that weekly evidence will show you that Mr. Finken was combative on the scene and combative inside the ambulance. Evidence also, we believe, is that Mr. Wall was actually vomited inside the back of the ambulance. I think you were testimony in that. And I want you to pay close attention to that testimony and close attention to those details. We don't dispute that injuries and death resulted from this accident. We don't dispute that. And the loss of those 2 young girls is something that can never be filled by anything I say or could say, and it may be the worst thing that a parent has to live through. Is a loss of a child. I can't imagine anything worse as a parent. I don't know anything worse I could live through than that. And for those parents and those grandparents and family, I'm deeply, deeply sorry. Very much so. I want that to be clear that no matter what happens here this week, next week, the result, there is no hope in their life with people. And I'm sorry for that. That's really me. But we do dispute who's at fault. We do dispute the proximate cause. We do dispute how this accident occurred. And what I ask every jury to do, I'll ask you guys to do, whether it's a one-day trial or a week trial, whether it's 4 witnesses or 40 witnesses, pay close attention to a lot of things that are you told, and things that you're not told, things that you're shown, things that you think you should be shown and not. These are all things within your province to consider. And I want to leave you one thing here. As I was preparing for this case, I looked up the term for accident. Because there are different words, motor vehicle collision, motor vehicle accident. But essentially an accident is an unfortunate incident that happens unexpectedly and unintentionally. A secondary definition is an event that happens by chance or without apparent or deliberate cause. And that's what this is, folks. This is accident. It's all it's ever been. And we believe that when this is all said and done, and you even have a chance to go back and deliberate, and I know that's going to be a difficult task to understand. It always is. And again, I say thank you for that, for what you're going to do, what you have done, and what's going to be presented to you. Is when you go back, you're going to see reasonable doubt throughout the case. There's going to be reasonable doubt. And I think when we're done, whether it's one day next week, that you will find my clients on guilty. That the state does not carry the burden. And I'll close with this. The state always carries the burden. The state must answer all your questions. Must dot all your I's, cross all of your T's if you have a question. My client has to do is produce nothing. Present that. We will. But he has no duty to do so. None whatsoever, and that should not affect you. But you will hear from us. You will hear evidence from us. Evidence is in contradiction to what the state's going to present. And it'll be your job to hash that out. And I think when you're done, you're going to find the reasonable doubt is clear throughout this case, from the beginning to the end. And if that's the case, if it's anywhere in, he's not guilty. And that's what we're going to actually find out guilty in each count. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your attendance. I look forward to presenting the case. Thank you.
All right. He didn't go back to the loaf of bread. I was kind of hoping that he would do that, but he did share with us the defense theory. Okay, and that is that there is responsibility on the part of the driver. They're saying that the driver of this car made a left-hand turn without yielding. No signaling, no yielding. And so he's also saying that was a contributing factor in addition to the weather. It was a very rainy night. He said that there was alcohol present in the car and in the roadway. So he's raising multiple issues that could have been contributory factors in this crash. Let's assess this. Let's bring in our law enforcement analyst, Jason Piccolo, to do that. Okay, Jason, what do you think of both sides' positions here?
And let's take a look at first the weather. There's a two-edged blade the defense just brought up. The weather was a factor in both of the drivers, including the defendant. Think about it. If you're a trooper and you're doing over 80, allegedly over 83 miles an hour, close to 90, and weather that is going to obscure your vision, then there's fault on his behalf right there too. They probably should have left out the weather aspect of that. Just because there's alcohol present in the vehicle doesn't mean the driver was using the alcohol or had any effect. I mean, did they do the toxicology? Are they going to look at that? So there's a lot of different aspects from just what the defense said, and it's going to be plus and minus for both the defense and the prosecutor, obviously.
Sure. Dr. Jason, do you think they're going to hold this guy to a higher standard because of the role that he was in at the time?
I believe so. And should they? In my opinion, yes, they should hold him to a higher standard because he has the training. He has the experience. He may have been 26, but a lot of these law enforcement agencies hire people who are, 21 and younger sometimes. So he does have experience on the road. And as a trooper, he should have a little bit higher expectation of training than a regular police officer or a special agent or anything in the federal arena.
Jason Piccolo, appreciate your analysis so much.